What is the creepiest thing you've seen in the woods, or in the mountains, or in deserts, or caves, or in small towns, or in remote or rural areas, or while on large bodies of water, or while on an aircraft or a nautical vessel? I was driving home after an extremely late night at work. I lived in the middle of nowhere. About a mile before I got there, a woman covered in blood jumped out of the woods into the middle of the road screaming. I panicked and went around her, then slammed on the brakes to help. Her boyfriend had beaten her and was currently chasing after her in the woods. I got her in my car and called the police. They met us at the hospital because I told them there was no way I was waiting on the side of the road when he was coming. Wow! Thank goodness you were there. I hope she got away from him after that. This was roughly 7 years ago and I still find myself hoping for the same. Wow! Good on you for helping, but also lucky. I could totally see someone pretending to be in trouble, then robbing you once you stopped to help. Not sure I would have stopped, myself. Where I lived was so secluded that it would have been almost pointless to try and rob someone out there. Less than 5 cars probably traveled down that road on a good night. Being robbed never popped into my mind, but I was convinced that every car that got behind us was her boyfriend and went almost 100 miles per hour the whole way to the hospital. Went on a mountain hike in Transylvania with a group of friends from school, and way up, after maybe 12 to 14 kilometers of trekking, we saw a house, was in the middle of nowhere. It had a barn, with a few animals, couple of cows, chicken, etc. As we get closer, we see a few people, a guy and 5 to 6 women. Not sure if there were more inside. The dude comes to greet us, barely speaking the language. We had a hard time understanding what he's saying. They lived without electricity, gas, anything. This is in the early 90s, so there's no internet, mobile phones to worry about. At least for most people. Anyway, they all looked weird, kinda dumb expressions on their face. We can barely understand each other. They asked us who's the president now, and if we want some milk. They look at our clothes and shoes weirdly, curious, like who knows when is the last time they had human contact. Or maybe there were more crazies around those parts, dunno. Not sure to this day what was going on. It's not typical in the region, so we kinda freaked out, especially cause the dude looked a bit disturbed, and we were too young. We were looking around to see if there's more of them. Paranoia was getting to us, thinking there must be a village nearby. What was also weird is that all the women kept their distance, and never got close to us. Like he was guarding them, or checking us out, if it's safe for them. One of my friends kept saying we don't want their milk, and we need to go, cause it's getting dark. We walked calmly for a while, then when we thought we're out of their sight, bolted like crazy out of there. Needless to say, we camped after a few hours, and we always had one person awake to keep watch. We told people that were living in the villages near that area, about the mountain people, and they didn't believe us. They said nobody lives there, up in the mountains. A little over 18 years ago I had just gotten out of the military. I drove all the way from Louisiana to my hometown in Montana, without incident. I spent a few days at home and then got back on the road because my new home destination was Boise, Idaho. It was February, so instead of going straight down the length of the state I cut across the panhandle of Idaho into Washington. The highway going straight down through the state is really twisty and very dangerous in the winter. So I crossed the state line into Washington. It was a Sunday and it was very early in the morning. As cliché as it sounds, there was quite a bit of fog in the air. I had been driving for a while and I really had to use the bathroom. Now normally, given how I was out in the middle of nowhere, I would normally just pulled over on the side and took a whiz, but since it was so foggy and hard to see, I thought it safer to just wait until I hit the next small town. So I drove for maybe 5 more miles and I started seeing signs for a town. I can't remember for the life of me the name of the town, but I think it was Linden or Linder, something like that. It was on I-90 going into the Spokane Valley, so I head towards the sign, which was a right turn off the interstate, and it's a short drive up this road and I reached the town. It was small, but I thought nothing of it since I was from a small town in Montana. Now here is where things get odd. There was not a single person to be found. There were cars and business, but not a single person to be found, no one walking the street, no logging trucks driving, everything was just as still as the air. I stopped at a gas station. It was one of those one in all places that did car repair, tires, etc., but no one was at the counter. I thought, well, maybe it's just really early. So I went around to the side to see if the bathroom was locked, and it was. As I made my way back around to the front of the building, saw a delivery truck. It was a Coke Classic truck. Except it wasn't moving, its headlights were on, the hazard lights were on, and the passenger and driver side doors were open, just sitting there in the middle of the street. Yes, I was getting a bad vibe, so I got back in my car and went back the way I came. I got back to I-90 and thought again about just pissing on the side of the road, but honestly I was too afraid. I continued driving until I hit Spokane. Honestly, I was more than a bit freaked out and had completely forgotten I had to piss. I didn't see anything creepy or hear anything creepy, but the stillness in the air and the complete lack of life, human or animal, was just terrifying and unsettling. I looked on the map to where I was once I got to Spokane, which was a Rand McNally's map, because GPS on phones was just not a thing yet, and I could not find it at all on the map. Even as I was writing this, I looked at Google Maps and nothing by the name Lyndon Linder or otherwise is on the map. I still to this day will never forget that feeling of just freaky displacement I felt there. When I got to Boise, I told my friend about it and he thought I was just trying to rip off Silent Hill or Resident Evil, and honestly I can't blame people for saying that, but at the same time that was the reason I wouldn't piss on the side of the road. I kept recalling the part in Re-1 where the hikers were killed by the murderous dogs. Anyway, if you stuck around this long, thanks for reading, and if you know of a town on Highway 2 between Coeur d'Alene, Idaho and Spokane, Washington, people let me know. If you are from there, I mean no offense, but your town is creepy as fuck. Edit. I have to correct myself. After going back over my trip, I didn't stay on Highway 2, I actually jumped on I-90 and then went over to Spokane. Last couple of days I have been thinking about this, and I have a 3-day weekend coming up. Maybe I will take a road trip up to northern Idaho and see if I can find this place again. Maybe I'm tempting fate here, but it's gonna be my 37th birthday, so here's to adventure.